After I made sure, he was fine, I fell to my knees and I just cried. I knew I couldn't keep going at the pace that I was going, and I knew something had to give. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Peaceful Presence Podcast. I'm Olivia Figuered, and today I want to share a personal story about being overwhelmed and how I applied one of the most important tools that I've learned, one that I still use in my life, and show you how it can work for you when you're experiencing feelings of overwhelm. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, you will have a simple yet powerful question that you can ask yourself anytime that you feel stuck or out of alignment, and one that I think can guide you back to clarity and purpose and peace. So the story I'm going to share was this one single moment that really shook me to my core. And it changed the way that I approach my time and my priorities, and kind of just that constant pressure to juggle it all. So if you are someone who feels like you're always running, always doing, always trying to be everything to everyone, then I think you will relate to my story. So let me take you back in time about 15 years ago. And at that time, I was a mom to two young boys. I think they were about 2 and 4 years old. And I worked in the mortgage industry. And primarily, I worked out of my home office. And I took great pride in my work. Customer service was everything to me. And when a client called, I felt like I had to respond immediately. I was kind of the queen of multitasking. That used to be a thing that I would pride myself in saying that I did well. I would juggle my career and motherhood. And in many ways, I was really good at it. But I was also running myself into the ground without really realizing it. So this one day, I came home with my boys, and a client had recently left me a message. And I used to always get this anxious feeling that, I couldn't relax until all my tasks were done. And I never wanted to keep somebody waiting. So when we got home, instead of settling in with my kids, I quickly set them up to play in their room. And then I snuck off into another room, closed the door, and I returned to my call. And I think I had told my 4-year-old at the time, what I was doing, and his job was to entertain his brother. And really, all I needed was, 5 to 10 minutes. And I thought, surely they could handle that. After all, we had just gotten home. And so I thought, being in their room to play, it would be enticing for them to be in there for a bit. So I was on the phone, and I started hearing the familiar sounds of crying and arguing. And I remember I could feel the frustration building up inside of me. And I remember thinking, why can't they just give me a few minutes? I was angry and I was frustrated, and I ignored them. I assumed they would work it out, and I carried on with my phone call. And, back then, working from home, it wasn't as common as it is today. So there was also this, added pressure to maintain a professional image and making sure that my clients wouldn't sense that I was, juggling motherhood in the background. And this added, to the feeling of stress I was experiencing at that time. But fortunately, my then 2-year-old, he managed to make his way to me, and just as I had ended the call. And when he walked into the room, his face it was red and it was panicked. And he had gotten this a play necklace wrapped around his neck and his arms. And then the more that he struggled to take it off, the tighter it became. I can't even explain how he got this necklace wrapped around both of his arms and his neck. And I really didn't have the time to analyze it. But all I know is that every time he tried to pull it off, it just kind of kept choking him. And so I immediately rushed and grabbed some scissors, and I cut it off, and he was okay, but I wasn't. I remember hugging him, and I was really shaken up at that time. And After I made sure, he was fine, I fell to my knees and I just cried. I knew I couldn't keep going at the pace that I was going, and I knew something had to give. I remember I thanked God that nothing worse had happened and that He was able to make His way to me. And then I asked myself the question that would change everything. I had, previous to that, I had been trained as a life coach through Martha Beck, and I went through this extensive coaching program. So I knew tools to use, but this was my wake up call to use them. And so on my knees, I asked that question. I said, what is it that needs my attention most right now? And I expected the answer to be something like, be present or go play with your kids. But instead, a completely unexpected answer came up. And that was clean out your closet. And at first, it didn't make any sense, but deep down, I knew it was exactly what I needed to do. When I walked into my closet at the time, it was crammed and stuffed and just kind of, chaotic. And it was overwhelming, just kind of like my life was at that time. And it was a space that I avoided and didn't like to go into. And I am this huge believer that our physical space mirrors our spiritual and our inner space. And that's what the closet was for me at that time. Sometimes we have to address our issues first in the physical, and then it carries over into the inner world. And other times, we work on the inner stuff, and I think that carries over into our physical reality, because they really are reflections of each other. So, equally important to asking that question of what needs my attention most right now is to be still and quiet to get that answer. And then you have to honor the answer when it comes up by doing it. So I listened, and I even hired somebody to help me clear it out, because sometimes I think we need to do that. There's a reason, I'm a mom of 4 now, and there's a reason why that expression, "it takes a village," is so popular, because sometimes we need help to get things done. And so this person that I hired at the time helped me go through all of my stuff. And at the end of that process, I had bags and bags of items to donate. And then when it was all done and gone, I felt something shift. There was space now, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That single act of decluttering my closet led me to make other changes that created more balance in my life at that time. And so that moment taught me a principle that I still live by today. Whenever life starts to feel overwhelming or out of alignment, I ask myself, what needs my attention most right now? And then I listen, and then I honor it. Because knowing what needs our attention is one thing, but actually following through is where the transformation happens. And the feelings of overwhelm and stress and anxiousness, I don't think they magically go away forever, but we can learn how to navigate through them with more peace and power. And so a few years later, after that happened, I did a speech and shared this story with a group of doctors. And I used an analogy that I want to share with you today. It might be a little cheesy, but I want you to picture a dinner plate. A dinner plate that is completely overloaded and piled high with food, more than anyone could possibly eat. And it just so happens that I now have 2 more children since the story I shared with you earlier, and one of them is currently 5 years old. So I just happen to have some play food handy for all of my visual people. So if you sat down to eat all of this, wouldn't you feel kind of like stuffed and sluggish and unhealthy and uncomfortable? Our lives are the same way. And the question isn't, what more do I need to add to that plate or do? It's what do I need to take off of my plate? What tasks can you delegate? What obligations or habits are no longer serving you? What is taking up space in your mind or your home or your schedule that maybe you need to release? One last thought that goes along with this, and this is something that my mom recently shared with me, and I always love and appreciate her wisdom. But these last few years for me, I have been diving deeper into my walk with God and learning a lot through books and podcasts and teachings. And I have felt like I am this sponge and I'm just so eager to absorb it all. But sometimes I have found myself a little bit overwhelmed by all the information that's out there. There's so much that I want to learn and absorb, but there's only so much time in the day. So my mom, she reminded me, she said, sometimes instead of consuming more, we just need to let what we've already taken in to digest. So that hit me. And I would just challenge you that before you rush to another task, another goal, another, book or list to get to, ask yourself, am I giving myself time to absorb and apply what I already know or learned? So with that, here's my encouragement for you today. Ask yourself, what needs your attention most right now? And then honor that answer, even if it seems small or strange or unexpected. Then evaluate your plate of life. Is there something that needs to come off to give you more room to breathe? And then give yourself time to digest before you take in any more. So maybe one of those speaks to you, or maybe they all do. Whatever it is, it's for you. So just listen to that inner compass, because I know it wants to guide you on your path. And if you are listening to this and you feel like you need help finding clarity, I have opened up coaching again. I don't take on too many clients, but I do trust that God connects me with the right people. So if that's you and you feel like you could use the benefit of a little extra coaching, feel free to reach out to me through my contact page on my website, which I will list in the comments below. I'd love to walk alongside you in your transformation that is rooted in faith. So thank you all for spending this time with me today, and I hope this message gives you permission to slow down, to listen, and to honor what truly needs your attention. So remember, until the next time, draw closer to God. I think it will help you discover the peace, the purpose, and the power that is within you. Thanks, everyone, and have a good day.